Hi, my name is Jack Sheehan, and my project is titled Machine Learning Detection of P Waves in Laboratory Acoustic Emission Events to Understand Deep Focus Earthquakes. I'll be giving a brief overview of my project in about 5 minutes. If you're curious to learn more about our specific results or the methods we used, please come by my poster. I am presenting on Wednesday. I'll be at my poster from 4 to 6, and my poster number is 0249. Thank you. This project focuses on the study of deep focus earthquakes, or those between 350 and 700 kilometers depth, using machine learning. The mechanisms of deep focus earthquakes remain largely poorly understood due to our inability to directly measure their properties in situ. And a key area of research right now involves studying deep focus earthquake fault structure analogs at high temperatures and pressures. This project uses an experiment done by the GSE CARS lab at the University of Chicago, conducting deformation experiments using a diamond anvil cell setup on magnesium germanium oxide samples, which you can see in figure 1. Magnesium germanium oxide is isostructural with olivine and transformed to spinel at high pressure. And this process is analogous to the olivine to ringwoodite transformation, which is the leading mineralogical candidate for the transformational faulting hypothesis, a possible explanation of deep focus earthquakes. In this experimental setup, 6 orthogonally oriented sensors recorded acoustic emission events in order to detect the precise level of P-wave arrival times for each grain pop that we need to accurately locate these events later. And these experiments returned event trigger data at 50 megahertz for all 6 stations, as well as continuous waveform data at 10 megahertz for 4 of the 6 stations. In total, this returns just under 10 billion data points per experiment. This can create an issue because as the size continues to grow, it can eventually become debilitatingly large. The quantities of data can become debilitatingly large, and researchers are forced to either use less high frequencies or use event-based trigger sensors. And there's issues with both of these, as lowering the frequencies makes the results less clear, but event trigger data can easily fail to capture all of the events. Some issues include there's a slight delay in the trigger sensor between it detecting an event and it recording. And also if multiple events happen and there's too much overlap, the event trigger sample may only quantify it as one event instead of multiple. And that requires manually checking, which at that point, you might as well use continuous data. This introduces the necessity for machine learning in this field. The ideal choice is to use continuous data because this ensures researchers are viewing the entire recording, lowering the probability of mechanical error. And what we have here is an experiment done several years ago. There's currently a large backlog of experiments like this just due to the data that they generate and the time required to evaluate the waveforms and manually pick the P waves. So to address this significant time requirement, this experiment introduces machine learning as a tool to automate the detection process. In order to analyze this data, this project utilizes an AI-based signal detector and phase picker based on a deep neural network called Earthquake Transformer, designed by Mustafa Musavi. Earthquake Transformer has an attention mechanism and hierarchical structure designed for signal detection in the MSEED format and has pre-trained models on global seismic data from the Stanford earthquake dataset. In its generic form, the package includes modules for downloading, processing, detecting, and picking P and S waves. Importantly, this experiment does not retrain. We continue to use this global data set that it was trained on and only altered detection threshold parameters and manipulated the P and S wave required probabilities. The short-term goal of this project is to determine the success of Earthquake Transformer on the microseismic data. This can return us results about hopefully deep focus earthquakes and their mechanisms, but also the scaling properties of AI on seismic data from global events to nanofractures in the lab. Preliminary results indicate the application of Earthquake Transformer on the event trigger data is successful. Earthquake Transformer detected 93.4% of the events identified by a human analyst, which we're considering the definitive selection. And in addition, it detected 57.3% more events than the human analyst. And to test these, we randomly selected a few hundred and checked their signal to noise ratios for their P-picks and compared them to the P-pick signal to noise ratios of those picked both automatically and manually, which are considered definitive events. And we found there was less than 3% error, no positive or negative biases. And from this, we can assume that these are genuinely missed events and not misclassifications by Earthquake Transformer. The long-term goal of this project is to create a definitive catalog of the AE events that occurred in this experiment. And from this, we'll be able to develop a high definition audio visual model of the fracture, creating a clearer picture of the fracture formation. And hopefully this will offer us key insights into the mechanisms of deep focus earthquakes, as well as bolstering the support for the use of AI in seismic detection. This is still preliminary results. This is the first step of this project, but it's very exciting to see these results nonetheless. And we really hope that you'll come by and talk to me about my poster. And thank you for listening.